good day. It's been doing a bit of watering, deadheading of these calendula. I have to say the flowers that we do have on the site this year are looking rather lovely, making up for the rest of the site really, which looks resplendent in its wildness in some ways, but I do need to get on and tame it. The weather and time just hasn't been on my side this year. Oh look, can you see up there? Can you see up there? A red kite in the sky. I'm not sure if you can see it. Look at it. Oh, if I knew how to zoom in, that would be sensible, wouldn't it? Yeah, we've got several red kites here now. They really are glorious. And of course that's looking for dead things. It's a scavenger. It's not a predator. It doesn't go after living things. Not usually anyway. It will... Oh look, it's coming over. Oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful. Wet circles. Oh yeah, so it's looking for sort of dead things, rats and mice and things like that on the ground. And on our pathway, our communal pathway, which is quite large down there, I've seen one come down and sort of take a dead rat from the ground and then fly back up. But yeah, looking at this teasel, I'm just enjoying what I am enjoying this year. That teasel is rather lovely, though I won't let it set seed because we don't want too much seed. Yeah, I mean, it looks rather lovely, but it is just a wilderness this year, I feel. Yeah, just a wilderness. Oh, I've just one of the magpies just flew past my head. I sort of felt it on my hair. It's Thursday morning, about 6:30 a.m. I have been up for about an hour and a half. I've done an hour at my desk, made a cup of tea, had several cups of tea, and decided to come down here early and water the seedlings of the lettuce in the greenhouse, because I haven't been down here since Tuesday afternoon. So they just needed, they were fine, but they just needed a little bit of watering. And also the ones in the poly, the cost lettuce in the poly, they needed a watering, and I saw those weeds there which I've been meaning to pull for ages, so I pulled those weeds, and those weeds are now in our perennial weed compost bin. Everything else has had plenty of water. We have had absolutely deluge after deluge after deluge over the last few days, and you know, this wet, cool British summer continues. It's sunny at the moment, as you can see. You know, the sun is coming in and the skies are blue, and I think it's going to be quite a nice day. And what I want is a few days like this where we have no rain, so that it can dry out the grass so that I can do strimming, because at the moment the grass is too wet to strim. You know, if I strim, it's just going to pull on the cord, you know, the plastic strimmer cord, and yeah, I'll go through that at a higher rate. If you had a blade, it would be blunting the blade. The wetness of the grass would blunt that blade much more swiftly. So yeah, I'd like to have a few days of sunny, warmish weather to dry that out. But things are generally, the things that are growing well are growing well, the things that aren't, put it that way. The lettuce are growing really well. I think I'm going to give a few heads of those lettuce away because they're growing at such a speed at the moment that we're not going to be able to eat them all. So I might as well give them to somebody else. I'll see if Nick, or I don't usually say names, one of our plot people over there who's got the wonderful flower garden, I'll see if she'd like a head of lettuce, and a couple of other people as well. And the beetroot are bulking up, the chard is doing really well. But where the challenges are coming, obviously, with the wetness, and we talk about this all the time this year, is the slugs and the snails. Because having had our cucumbers and our courgettes and our squash decimated by slugs and snails with the sowing that we did early on, the ones that I have put in from the gate sale that I bought, or the gate sale we had rather, they are being decimated as well. And yeah, I'm then also looking at the beans and the tomatoes. Our tomatoes normally would be about 3 foot, 4 foot high, if not higher at the moment. These here are sitting at about 1.5, 2 foot, something like that. I'm taking the leaves off, I'm thinning them, I'm taking side shoots where they're not a bush variety. I'm taking side shoots out. But of course I've put the French beans in there expecting the tomatoes to be higher. They're not, so I'm now thinking, will blight come along? Don't like saying that word, but you know, if blight does become prevalent on the site, we've got humid, warm, wet weather. If blight becomes prevalent, those tomatoes will have to come out. At least the beans are in there. But I thought the beans, underplanting the tomatoes was a good idea with the beans, with bush beans, because they would be sort of lower. They'd get up to about maybe 45 centimeters, something like that. And then we'd have our tomatoes at, you know, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot. No, that's not happening this year, of course. So what's happening is the airflow between the tomatoes is being reduced by having the beans there. So if the bee thing should come along, I think we'll have an issue with those. The brassicas, of course, were eaten by pigeons. There are things I need to sort out, and I know that the plot has got away from me this year, and I can't quite put my finger on why. The wet weather hasn't helped, of course. The growing season hasn't helped, I think, because things that would have got in the ground and got away before the sort of challenges of wetness, like slugs and snails, might have been more prevalent, they haven't really had time to get away. So, you know, if you have a plant which is bigger, a courgette or a cucumber that is well established and is then having lots of wet weather and is being attacked by slugs and snails, the plant can usually survive that, you know, because you'll still get some crops from it. The issue that we've got at the moment is because the plants are still young and still trying to get established, they're really sort of fresh and lovely and yummy for slugs and snails, and they're going in there and they're really munching them. I don't know if I said last week, but I saw a courgette developing, or I saw a courgette, the female fruit, because you could see the courgette with a flower, and I thought, oh, fantastic, there's a female flower. It's got its fruit behind it. If it gets pollinated, it will grow. Came down a day or so later, and of course it had been munched, and not only had the flower been munched, but the fruit behind the flower that would have developed had been munched, so that was gone. But I'm taking those moments of joy. You know, we as Richard and Paul have spoken about moments of joy quite a lot, and I am taking those moments of joy, and the moments of joy I am getting this year are mainly in flowers, and the lavender's doing incredibly well. The cotton lavender, the Santolina in front of me is wonderful. The chard is now doing well. The chicory is looking fabulous. Over on my neighbouring plot, the carrots from the previous tenants, the carrots that have gone to flower are looking absolutely amazing, because the current tenants left them in there so they could go to flower and look amazing. And then you see a red kite, you know, above you in the skies, and it looks fabulous. So those are the things that I'm taking pleasure from this year. I've got a few plans which I'll talk about later in the week. But yeah, it just goes to show, you know, best laid plans and all that. I was so well ahead in March. I was so well ahead in preparation of the beds and things like that. But since then, that weather has really struggled, really been challenging, and it's been a struggle for me. And I know other people are finding the same. I mean, Bethan, I'm always amazed at how wonderful Bethan's garden looks like, her growing area looks like. It's great. For me this year, it's gone beyond me taming it and pulling it back. That doesn't mean I won't, when the weather has dried the grass, I won't be pulling it back and trying to get it back to the state I want it to be, because of course we believe we're going to have another growing season next year, you know, so I will be doing work in the interim, even if we've not got things growing in beds, to get things ready for next year. That's what we do, you know, that's what we do as growers and gardeners and allotmenteers. We try and plan ahead, and when we have those plans that go awry, we sort of shift and move around them and find a different way, or go, you know what, that's not actually worked this year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and that will help. So yeah, and I think I'll have more time next year. I'm waffling. Right, I'm going to go. Sorry, I've been waffling. 9 minutes. I've been going on and on for 9 minutes. I'm going to go. See you again very soon. Bye. Good day. It's Saturday morning and quite a busy week. I wanted to do some sowing earlier on in the week, but didn't get round to it. This is chicory. Also got here some endive called Rosso, I think. So I think it's a rosy one. The chicory is vital seeds, and they just come in the packet. I'm just sowing 1 or 2 seeds per module. This is moose seeds that I haven't had before. They come in a paper packet, but then in a also in a plastic. Again, just a couple of seeds per module. And those are going back in the packet. Then I've got some rocket, which I was going to sow direct, but I've decided, because of how the weather is, I'm just going to sow it into one of these half trays at the back. Really tiny seeds. That one's got its own little label, plastic label, so we'll use that. Then I've got some outrageous lettuce left from seed that we bought several years ago. You'll remember last week I'm doing a comparison between some of the seed that we've got growing, some of the lettuce rather, that we've got growing outside, with newly sown seed of outrageous and Marvel of Four Seasons. I have Marvel of Four Seasons here. What's this one from? Ancestry Seed Bank. Didn't know moose seeds or ancestry, quite like how they look. Oh no, look, that one's in a little grease-proof packet. So it's got a little slit thing at the top to tear. These are really being sown very thinly. I can't get into this one. How do I get into that? Somehow I'm in there. I'll put that there. I've got two seeds that have fallen out here. I'll shift that one along. Put these carefully back in here. Shut that one up as well. Just gonna tamp down a little bit. That's stuck. Light scattering there, light scattering there. So we've got our 2 rows of chicory, 2 rows of endive, rocket, outrageous at the back here. This side says outrageous, and then Marvel of 4 Seasons here at the front. And obviously they've been given a decent water. And now off into the greenhouse. Even though there was still some blooms to come, these overhanging branches were just getting in my way as I walked around here and into the poly. And as I don't want to poke myself in the eye or anything like that, it was best to take those out and put them into our dead hedge, which I have now done. That's that bed partly clear. I'm leaving the leeks at the back simply because the bees that are around at the moment are enjoying them. I've also noticed that some have got a white flower and most are the pinky flower. There's still a few feverfew in here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 feverfew. You can see I've cut the feverfew right back. What I'm going to do is take those out of here and pop them on temporarily, because I think we're going to have these at the front, because I've got thoughts about what's going to happen at the front now. Anyway, that's that bed partially cleared. A little bit of seed sowing, a little bit of watering of things in the greenhouse and the poly, a little bit of tidying, a little bit of cutting things back, a little bit of tidying of beds, and I think that's going to be the name of the game for the rest of the weekend, if I can get down here later and also tomorrow. If the rain stays off and I can get back down this afternoon, I think I'll be doing some strimming, because the site does need strimming, the plot rather needs strimming, as I said earlier in the week. So I hope to be able to get down and do that this afternoon. The seed sowing that I did, I used half or maybe a third perennial weed compost. That was in the bin, the red bin, that had a few plants growing in, and I just took the plants out, scraped off that top soil of that compost and mixed it in with general compost that I've got, multi-purpose compost, and also some spent compost, and I sieved it. I don't normally sieve my seed sowing compost, but this time I did. I think I'm going to try and do that from now on. A finer compost obviously helps, and I think with peat-free compost, the finer it is for seed sowing, the better. That's sort of where I'm going. But yeah, it's going to be more tidying later on. There's some more seed sowing that I want to do. I want to sow some more beetroot. I also want to sow some chard. There's a few jobs I'm going to be doing tomorrow, but I think I will. Yeah, I'll see you with those tomorrow. I'm going to end it here for this segment, and I'm going to end it with something that I haven't done yet, which is changing the calendar from June to July. Naughty me. See you very soon. Bye. Good day. Did a fantastic trick of not putting the camera on when I did this, but you can see that I've taken these 4 feverfew out and put them into temporary pots. They're going to be going, I think, to the front bed, but we'll talk about that another day. It's been a morning of strimming, of raking, of putting that into the compost, of cardboard tearing, taking the feverfew and chopping up the stems and putting those into the compost. Yeah, it's been a sort of tidying morning, and I've decided that the courgettes and squash in front of me, butternut squash and the squash and the courgettes that I bought at the market, not at the market, the gate sale, apart from 2, they have all been munched, so I've taken those out. I've moved calendula from this bed to the next bed. I've decided that's going to be a calendula and possibly nigella bed next year. It's going to be a flower bed basically. It gets a lot of shade because of the buddleia, and I don't want to remove that buddleia because it's such a lovely colour. In fact, 3 people have come up to me this morning in the last 3 hours and said, oh, look at that buddleia, can I have a cutting of it? You know, I'd love to have that. So I said I will be doing some cuttings, so if they come true then you can have them. Yeah, and then I'm going to sow chard into this bed in front of me where the squash were, and I will have to use a judicious amount of organic slug pellets. I will just have to. What a year, what a year. I've spoken to a lot of people this morning. My 2 plot neighbours here, one over there, next door here, and one over again. We're all in the same boat. You know, we've generally got a few things that are doing okay. Lettuce, interestingly, doing okay for most, but other things, yeah, what a year. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. I've made some decisions for next year, for next growing year, and that is now really what I'm working towards. So getting back as much on top of this plot as I can, and enjoying my time as well. Enjoying my time, because Rich and I are fortunate in that we both have jobs. We are not big spenders. We don't go on, you know, expensive holidays several times a year. We don't do Christmas, which of course is always a really expensive time for many. We still have a couple of friends around at Christmas and New Year, but we don't make it a big thing. We make it an enjoyable, big, fun thing for us, rather than a wonderfully profit bearing season for corporates, if you like. And you know, if you've got money and you want to go and spend it, that's completely up to you. We want a simpler life and are trying to have that simpler life, which brings me back to the plot. For me, the plot is more about exercise and mind balance and well-being. We get food from it, that's fantastic. If we don't get food from it, that's disappointing, but we can afford to go to the shops and buy things. We were talking about beer traps with 2 people this morning, and I said, but you know, I'm glad your beer traps are doing well. Do you get dregs from pubs? You know, we used to be able to get dregs from the Fox pub across the road. They used to give us the dregs and we could use those in beer traps. But either there has been a landlord change, a couple of landlord changes, or landlady changes, not sure. Land people, maybe that's what it's called nowadays, land persons. And they no longer allow us to go over there with a sort of 5-litre container and take dregs. So fair enough. So in order to buy the beer to put into beer traps, you're talking about 150, £2 a bottle, you know. And if you're putting out 6 beer traps and you need a third of a bottle in each, that's suddenly £3, £4. Now I can buy quite a decent amount of good fruit and veg with £4. If you're thinking, as one person has, they've got 18 beer traps around their plot, they just suddenly said to me, you know what, you're totally right. We're spending more money on beer to deter slugs from our crops than we would be if we were buying beer and buying vegetables. So, you know, do think about the other side of things when you are deciding to do something. Have a good think about all the different aspects, including cost. Anyway, I have done what I'm doing today. I might be back later to sow that chard. If I am, we'll most probably visit it next week, in next week's A Week at the Plot, because I'm going home now and I'm going to have lunch. So yeah, I'm glad I've done what I've done this morning. And of course, mentally, strimming just helps, and getting things into the compost bin and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, any comments, any questions, any thoughts, please do put them down below, and let me know how your garden is doing, how your garden, your growing space or your allotment is doing. I know so many people are struggling, including Jane, you know, Jane Kelly. I put something up on Planet Vegetarian. She went, yes, I agree, you know. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to go. I was just asked a little question then. Actually, quite a long question. Quite a short answer, but quite a long question. Where was I? Yes, we were wrapping things up, weren't we? I hope, however things are in your garden, your growing space or your allotment, and however challenging they may be, you're finding those bits that are cheering you and making you feel good to be outside getting stuff done. And if, like me, you're finding that this year is a bit of a washout because of all the rain and all the slugs, bend your mind forward to next growing season, which for me here is only a few months away, because we start at the beginning of October. Yeah, which I know some of you find really odd. Anyway, whatever is happening in your garden, your growing space or your allotment, I hope you are taking pleasure from it, or at least a few moments of joy. See you very soon, and happy growing. Bye.